my history of substance use disorder is not so unique, right? I like to think it's the only story like it in the world, but it's not. I can, looking back, I can absolutely identify myself as an alcoholic, during the years before the opiates were added. I didn't think that really at the time, but looking back, I clearly that was the case. I was just one of those so quote unquote high functioning ones, right? So I went to work every day except when I didn't, but which is really funny that I say it that way because I think I probably missed more work than I realized also. But be that as it may, I was still supporting my children. I had, my first husband, there was a lot of trouble there, and he was not supporting us financially in any way. So like the burden was on me. I really had to do it. And so I did it. So then when I hurt my back, right, and it was hurting for a while, I finally started, I tried some like massage therapy and physical therapy and all that kind of stuff. And it just wasn't getting better. So, this doctor said, I think this might help for we'll try this for a while and see how you do. Well, it was like I found heaven in a bottle, right? Like the week or so, I didn't have pain. I didn't feel it. I was feeling great. I was moving. Like I could get so much done because I was not distracted. You also got euphoric from it, right? So, that I absolutely was experiencing, the euphoria, right? So there was no middle ground, right? It wasn't that, like I was either on or off. There was no like idling in between. And, over time, it took more and more to do less and less, which is the phenomena of tolerance, right? So as I kept using it, I would have to use more to achieve that, right? And so this just became a vicious cycle of more and more and more and more. And being somewhat as a sophisticated consumer, right, being a nurse and a lawyer, I knew what I needed to do to get what I wanted to get, right? Which made me a little different than other people with substance use disorder because I knew how to play the system, right? And I did. And that's what I did. And it went on for more time than I care to admit. Mm-hmm. So, it finally, and as with a lot of people, right, it finally, I couldn't stand being in my own skin, right? I couldn't imagine not doing the drugs. And of course, I added alcohol to this. And I couldn't imagine continuing to do the drugs, right? Because both things were horrible. So, had I reached my proverbial bottom? Somewhat, right? And I can tell you this went on for more months than it's hard to believe when I look back on it. So,
it was months, it wasn't years.
Well, it was years that I was going in and out. Okay. But the last hurrah was months. But, if I go back a little bit, like there was times where I thought I was an alcoholic, but every time I would stop drinking and stop doing something, like things got immediately better in my mind. And I would start, instead of identifying with other people in recovery, I was comparing. So like, I was like, well, and I was being a victim. So I would say to myself, if you had my life, you drink too. Like, it's too much. Like, I can't handle all this, right? I got a high pressure job. I got 3 kids to support. Nobody's helping me. Oh, woe is me, right? So that tape would play along with I am entitled to relief from this mental state I'm in, right? Yeah. And that cycle kept me going and going and going, right? I had a lot of reserve, if you will. And, finally, the drugs are what stopped me because it got so unbearable that I just had to detox. So I did. And I'm not recommending this for other people, but, I threw up at home for a couple of weeks. And which is
So
not
you
the
made
best.
a decision to stop and then you just stayed at home for
I
2
guess
weeks to detox?
I think that is probably accurate. It's hard to kind of really remember the details, but there was a moment of clarity.
Mhm.
And I was like, I cannot do this anymore. Right. I was like waking up, not remembering what I did. I was blacking out. Things like that had never happened before.